By mid-May 1901, the Eastern Transvaal was caught in a grueling rhythm. British forces were executing massive, rolling sweeps across the South African countryside. Major General Walter Kitchener commanded one of these columns. Embedded within his ranks were the 5th and 6th Western Australian Mounted Infantry. For the frontline troops, the daily reality of these sweeps rarely involved pitched battles. It was mostly administrative exhaustion, chasing down stray transport wagons, rounding up livestock, and clearing out civilian farms. Performing the same clearance drills day after day bred a dangerous complacency. The British column began to treat the local landscape as a series of chores to be ticked off, rather than an active, unpredictable combat zone. This rigid approach was personified by Captain Peebles, the column provost Urschel. His job was to enforce martial law and coordinate farm clearances strictly by the book. On the evening of May 15th, Peebles rode ahead of the main column to a farm near Brakpan to officially notify the residents of an impending evacuation. Following protocol to the letter, Peebles informed the Boer women exactly when the British transport wagons would arrive the following morning to clear the property. The residents immediately relayed this precise schedule to a nearby Boer commando. They knew exactly when and where the Australians were coming. By strictly adhering to military procedure, the British command structure handed a highly mobile enemy the exact intelligence required to build a flawless trap. At dawn on May 16th, the advance guard of the Western Australian Mounted Infantry arrived at the Brakpan Farm, completely oblivious to the danger. They were met by Boer women who directed the Australian scouts toward a nearby stream, a Spruit, claiming that 3 wagons had become stuck in the mud. This historical account confirms how the scouts were misled, finding the wagons intentionally buried up to their axles. It was bait. Further down, it reads, "The trap was sprung right as the dismounted troops were trying to extract the heavy wagons from the mud." The Australians were entirely compromised. Immobilized by the terrain, they had walked blindly into a lethal perimeter that the Boers had spent the last 12 hours preparing. Without warning, hundreds of concealed Boers opened fire from the tall crops of a nearby mealie patch, catching the column in a brutal crossfire. The concentrated volley inflicted immediate, severe casualties. Several men dropped, and officers took heavy fire, including Lieutenant Reed, who was shot straight through the abdomen while trying to lead his men. Recognizing his force was completely outgunned and exposed, Captain Campbell ordered a general retirement, forcing the Australians into a desperate, fragmented withdrawal across the open ground. On the right flank, Lieutenant F.W. Bell was overseeing the retreat when he spotted an Australian soldier running for his life on foot, his horse having just been shot out from under him. Bell immediately broke from the retreating line. He rode his horse directly back into the kill zone under point-blank enemy fire to pull the stranded man up behind his saddle. As documented in the regiment's history, the rescue attempt almost ended in disaster. Bell's horse could not handle the double weight and collapsed beneath them, spilling both men onto the battlefield. With the Boers advancing rapidly, Bell made a split-second calculation. He ordered the rescued man to take the recovering horse and escape, actively choosing to stay behind on foot. Using a single large anthill for cover, Bell exposed himself to the advancing line and laid down a rapid, accurate stream of suppressive fire, buying enough time for both the rescued man and Captain Campbell to reach safety. High-level strategic planning had vanished. Instead, the survival of the rearguard rested entirely on the split-second decisions of the men in the kill zone. Bell miraculously held his ground until General Kitchener arrived with reinforcements. Faced with a larger force, the Boer commandos slowly fell back across the Spruit. The short, violent engagement left a heavy toll. Multiple men lay dead. Several officers were severely wounded, and the muddy banks of the stream were literally known as Grobler's Rest. The Devon buglers played the last post as they laid their fallen comrades in rows of freshly dug graves. Addressing the devastated unit, General Kitchener didn't mince words. He openly acknowledged the brilliant and fatal execution of the Boer ambush, warning his troops not to underestimate the enemy's tactics. Brakpan forced the British command to reevaluate the enemy. They were up against highly adaptive guerrilla tacticians who had mastered the art of the lethal ambush. Today, the engagement at Brakpan serves as a stark case study in the mechanics of asymmetric warfare. It illustrates the lethal friction between a rigid British bureaucracy that blindly telegraphed its movements and the desperate courage required by Australian troops to survive the resulting trap. This official dispatch confirms the final outcome of that courage. For his extraordinary refusal to leave a man behind under fire, Lieutenant F.W. Bell was awarded the Victoria Cross. Brakpan stands as a reminder of what happens when a rigid military machine encounters an agile insurgency. When the command structure prioritizes bureaucratic protocol over operational security, the price is paid by the soldiers on the ground.